Alright, my name is Latham. I'm going to give you guys my presentation on my economic truism. My truism is companies get tax breaks for moving jobs overseas. This truism came from mostly in the election propaganda. During the presidential debate, Obama and Romney kind of argue about it, and I have a short clip to show you guys that.
The second topic, which is you said you get a deduction for taking a plant overseas. Look, I've been in business for 25 years. I have no idea what you're talking about. I maybe need to get a new accountant, but the idea that you get a break for shipping jobs overseas is simply not the case.
So that's where the truism sort of came from. A lot of people believed it because of that reason. Another reason why people think this truism is true is this quote: if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. And that was by Joseph Goebbels, and he was Hitler's like right-hand man. So, more along the lines, in 2010, the Senate introduced a bill 3816, creating American jobs and ending Australian Act. Because of this truism, the bill was democratic, but it got voted down. But what it would have done was it would have provided tax breaks for companies who bring jobs back from overseas, and would have ended tax breaks for companies that move overseas and import their products for sale in the U.S. If the Senate were to have their way and got rid of the tax deferral, sort of made this scenario is that the company A is an American company that moved to Britain, and B is a company already in Britain. And the tax rate in Britain is 25%. If the American company was still paying that 15% difference, they would be paying 40% in tax, which they can't compete with paying that much more in the marketplace. So that's why it wasn't a good idea to pass that. The economic flaws, the answer is complex. It's kind of like an iceberg. There's more than what meets the eye. Because there's no specific tax break for the company moving overseas, but the businesses sort of get around it by deducting tax deductions by moving the business as like a justified business expense, which is completely legal. Business write-off is a number of federal income tax credits available to businesses that are grouped together and can be claimed using the IRS form 3800. And small businesses use this a lot. Like, they'll start up a business and they'll write off the startup costs so that they're able to make a profit and be in business. Some things that qualify as a write-off: the startup costs, travel and entertainment. So they pay for people to go to conferences and for the airplane and for the hotel rooms. And for equipment, you get reimbursed for like telephones, pencils, simple things like that. And then obviously the travel expenses to move overseas, which is what the big debate is about. Why do companies take their jobs overseas? The U.S. has the highest corporate tax rate in the world. We'll get to a graph a little bit that shows that. They just came number one. Japan was number one. And then the labor in America is very expensive with the unions, and just the overall standard of living. It costs a lot, but the workers are more productive than in foreign countries. So they kind of get what you pay for. So here's the graph of the countries. Japan just lowered their corporate tax rate, so America is the top with 39%, and then here's the rest. There's another reason why they ship business overseas. There's another tax break that they found a loophole for. The tax code: a company overseas does not owe the IRS taxes on revenue until the money is brought back into the U.S. parent company. So as long as the company is overseas and they make a bunch of money, they don't have to pay the IRS taxes on it until they bring that money back. The socioeconomic impact of the tourism was the presidential election. Part of the reason why President Obama won the election was because of the tourism, that people believed it, and they thought that Obama was a better candidate. The tourism has influenced legislation in Washington, D.C. Bills, or like they tried to pass a Senate bill in order to like stop the tourism. The people, like American citizens, have great patriotism, and they'll buy from a company that's like based in the U.S. rather than a foreign company or a company that moved overseas. And then the company that goes overseas impacts the job market, which affects the people, everyday lives. And so, like the companies moving their jobs overseas takes the jobs from American citizens here, which creates, it doesn't really help the job. And in conclusion, companies do not get a specific tax break for moving overseas, but because moving is a justified tax deductible. Any questions?
So who was right, Obama or Romney?
Technically, Romney was right because there is no specific tax break, but their businesses do get around it, so they both weren't telling the complete truth, but they both had partial truth.
So there's element of truth on both sides. Okay. Thank you very much.